This is the Nomadic Traveler Podcast. Welcome to Nomadic Traveler Podcast. I am your host, Jason, and our lovely and wonderful co-host is here as always, Miss Nicole.
Hey guys, what's up?
And we have, who do we have?
Dustin.
Dustin.
On our show today.
So he's going to talk to us about the importance of making friends on the road.
Yes, and how just being immersed in your culture, wherever you go, is going to enhance your vacation atmosphere.
Is that what you do, Nicole?
Yes.
Do you meet friends on the road?
I do enjoy talking. So, yes. But no, he's kind of a traveler of the United States, been around everywhere, and I think that he's going to bring a unique perspective on how you can talk to people, meet people, make lifelong friends in order to increase your travel and enhance the travel that you're already doing. So I think it'll be good.
That is one of the cool things about traveling is meeting people and developing good friendships. I always, especially now with the days of technology and everything, it's easy to stay connected with people. So I always tell people, if you meet somebody and you have a good relationship with them, at least become Facebook friends with them or something like that. So, especially if it turns into one of those things, if you're like one of those people that, maybe lives in the Midwest and your family always likes to go to Fort Walton Beach, say, for vacation, and you develop some friends down there, and maybe they're traveling there at the same time every year, that gives you somebody that you can meet up with and have dinners, and their friends can get to know, or their kids can get to know your kids, and then it enriches that journey, it enriches that thing, so now you have vacation friends.
Yeah.
That you look forward to seeing every year.
For sure. And if you're like, okay, I'm going to California, I know I have such and such friend there. Or they're coming here, they can stay with me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'll be good.
Excellent. All right. Up next, Mr. Dustin. All right. We'd like to welcome our friend Dustin to the show. And he's coming to us from San Antonio?
San Antonio.
All right, man. How's the weather down there?
It is hot, hot, hot.
What are you out doing today?
Recovering.
Did you get Corona?
No, I didn't get Corona. They're giving out extra money for that.
If you get Corona?
For sure. The place that I donate blood, they're in desperate need of anybody, to donate blood, but also if you have Corona antibodies, they'll pay you $350 to go donate.
I hadn't heard that. That's going to be something everybody should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Right?
That's some travel money. That's what we need.
Exactly.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about how you got started traveling and what kind of travel you do.
Well, my name is Dustin. I'm 33. I got into traveling out of boredom, ennui.
Nice.
I don't really do a whole lot of vacation type travel.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's more either moving somewhere randomly or helping somebody move somewhere, or on a whim I'm on some epic 3 or 4 day road trip where we're figuring out, all kinds of different things. But
so you're kind of a spontaneous traveler.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. I really got started with my traveling kind of life. I had an epiphany 8 years ago, 10 years ago or so. I was the number one salesman at this company in 3 states, and I realized I could go do the exact same thing that I was doing right now anywhere else in the country. It wasn't dependent upon I'm originally from Indiana.
That's where our show is located, if everybody doesn't know that.
Hey, Naptown, let's go.
Right.
Who doesn't want to get out of here?
But once I kind of thought about that and had that epiphany, and I took some time to meditate and pray and digest it, I started making plans to go.
So where'd you
And
go?
originally Phoenix.
Okay.
Um, we moved basically in February of 2015. Had some stuff ready to go, and we just packed my car and went
Wow.
out to Phoenix. No job, no no support system there. Just $2,000 in a car.
So did you have like a place to stay already, or you just went there and
No,
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 nothing? All right.
Everything was by the
no.
seat of your pants, huh?
Seat of your pants. It's honestly the best way to go figure out anything is by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Well,
So so
it,
how did you like get into like finding like how did you find a place to live and like know what side of towns you wanted to live on and like all the ins and outs of the city?
I didn't, more or less. Um,
What part of Phoenix were you in?
I was actually in North Phoenix.
North Phoenix. Okay.
Uh,
Kind of close to Scottsdale, or
Scottsdale's a little east.
okay.
I'm probably a little closer to Glendale,
Okay.
if you want to say. But um, as I started seeing things, when we were on our way there, uh, we basically kind of decided that we wanted to be around big freeways. Honestly, wherever you go, as long as you're near the arteries that get you from A to B,
Yeah.
you're not ever really that far from where you need
Right.
to be. So really, we just found the cheapest hotel.
Yeah.
Nice.
Extended stay.
Extended stay. This one was called the Budget Inn
Oh.
off of I-17 and a street called Dunlap. There's a shameless plug.
Okay.
And from there, we kind of broadened our apartment search, and I had a job within 2 days.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
I mean, as long as you're willing to do anything, there's no reason that when you go to a new city that you shouldn't be able to have a job,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have any income coming in.
Unless
Uh,
it's Corona time.
Yeah.
Corona
Unless oof,
might
probably
affect
not
that
the
a
best
little
time to travel.
bit. Right.
Once we were at the hotel and I was driving to the job, it only became natural to look for an apartment there, and boom, 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 I'm in Phoenix. And then it just became getting familiar with the city and finding the ins and outs and trying to feel the pulse.
Well, something's kind of funny is I did a very similar thing to this. And when I was younger, probably in about 2007, I think is when I went out there, I did the same thing. I took off, I loaded all my stuff in a 6x12 trailer, towed it behind my truck, moved out to Phoenix. I had a buddy that was already out there, so I had about $2,000, same thing. And I just
Hell yeah.
took off and went out there, and I stayed at an extended stay hotel. The extended stay hotel did not allow dogs. I couldn't find anywhere that allowed dogs, and I had a dog. So I had to hide my dog in this extended stay hotel. So she'd have to stay inside. I had to get up real super early in the morning, let her out, sneak her out of the apartment or out of the hotel, take her across the street, take her for a walk real quick. I'd bring her back in. I'd go out and I'd look for jobs all day long, man. All day. I did apartment maintenance at the time. So I knew that I was going to go in the apartment industry. So I just went and I'd search all day long. So I spent about 2 weeks searching real hardcore, picked the best job that was available. Same thing, I'd get home in the evening, I'd let the dog out across the street, eat something, go to bed. And finally I accepted a job. And then once I got the job, then that allowed me to get into an employee lease there. So I could move in right away, get an employee lease. And it was in Ahwatukee. And it was off of I-10.
Down south.
So yeah, it was the same strategy though. I wanted to be right off the interstate, so that way I could zip, wherever I needed to go quickly. So it was right off of what was I can't think of the exit, but it was right off of Interstate 10. So right now Ahwatukee, right next to South Mountain Park.
Yeah, so fun story about Ahwatukee. The only experience I ever have with Ahwatukee, I went to an IndyCar race in Phoenix in April, like 2 months after I was there.
Okay.
Shout out to IndyCar racing in IRL.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that night, my car got destroyed by a drunk driver.
Ooh,
Absolutely destroyed.
that's not good.
Yeah, and this was like a couple of days after an encounter with a rattlesnake and me almost catching heat stroke. And I was fully in the mindset that everything in the desert wants to sting you, stab you,
Yeah.
kill you. Um, so, and that was our only mode of transportation. And so I had to take the amazing Phoenix metro area transit
Yeah.
all the way from North Phoenix at the tippity top of the light rail all the way to Awatuki, which is about a 3 hour public transit ride
Fun.
That's a lot of fun.
in order to go talk to and pick up a check from the insurance folks. So Awatuki, man, that is. Did you ever get to go to South Mountain?
I went to South Mountain Park, yeah, a couple different times.
Oh
That
man,
place
it's
is
great.
nice. I really like that place.
That's another great thing about Phoenix. If you're going to move anywhere, if you're going to travel anywhere, pick somewhere that's nice and pretty.
Yeah.
Uh, and you really can't get much prettier than I think Arizona.
It's really nice
For my,
there.
For someone like me that's never moved out of Indiana, which is a dream, what would be like a tip that you would give? So like, okay, go find an extended stay or move somewhere close to the interstate and then find that job, and then like how do you start to just like really know the culture and the people there and get to feel that vibe? How do you normally do that when you move from place to place?
Well, my one quick tip is if you're going to move somewhere and say you're moving to Phoenix and you know you're on your way there, so it's like a week before you're getting ready to leave Indy or whatever, and you want to start sending out resumes to get jobs, find a Phoenix address and put that address on your resume. Because if you are sending resumes and you have an Indiana address on there, they're not going to call you because they know you're from out of state, and the likeliness is you may show up, you may not. And if you have an actual Phoenix address on there, they're going to think that you're more serious and they're going to take you more serious and you'll get way more calls back.
That's a good idea.
So that's my one tip.
personally, I called a bunch of folks in my industry. Now, you were out there in 2007.
Yeah.
So
That was
the
before the
job
crash.
process, well, yeah, and the job process was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Not quite as much was online. Pretty much everything was online at that point, but you could still go out and slap hands
Yeah.
and pat people on the back and talk to them and have that kind of figure out what was going on. My biggest tip would be don't be afraid of any job, because as long as you're employed, it's a lot easier to find another job when you have a job.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is exhaust what money you have before you can go. So the thing that I did when we found our budget in was we paid down for 2 weeks. We didn't even stay there for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but we paid 2 weeks up just because I knew I was going to have a gig.
Okay.
I just banked on myself. But yeah,
Nice.
just don't be afraid of anything
Okay.
except having to turn around and go back home.
Yeah.
So you're saying, Jason, to like try to find the job first and then like
I'm just saying, yeah, it doesn't hurt to be shooting out resumes early. So what I did is like before I left, I shot out a bunch of resumes, and then while I'm driving across the country, I fielded phone calls and had interviews that I was trying to set up while I'm driving across the country. That drive across the country was 1,800 miles for me, and I was towing a trailer. You can't go real fast, so I did about 600 miles a day, and that would be 10, 12 hours of driving every day. So you have nothing but time to sit there and do outreach and try to land a job. So I had, by the time when I left, I had no interviews. When I got there, I probably had 6 interviews set up by the time I got there. And then I spent like the first day that I got there getting all gelled into the place and kind of exploring a little bit and learning my way around, and I probably landed 6 more interviews by the time that day was done. So then I had 12, and I went through and interviewed at the 12 best apartment complexes that I could find, and then narrowed it down from there. So
nice.
Now, see, I did learn something like that because when I moved from Phoenix after I lived there for a few years to San Antonio, where I am now, it was before I even left, I had my position with FedEx secured months in advance.
nice.
So if you like to travel, having a gig like you had, apartment maintenance that is needed everywhere,
Yeah.
or being with a larger company can allow you to do all kinds of cool travel stuff.
Yeah.
Transfers and things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to tell you, Nicole, about how do you get to feel the heart of the city, the
Oh, yeah.
pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Public transit is honestly a good way to go.
Yeah.
It allows you to see what the locals see, especially in cities that have a decent public transit setup like Portland or Phoenix or a lot of those cities out west, and also take advantage of any of those public transit deals. In Phoenix, anytime that you had a ticket to any event at all, it would give you free passes to ride the light rail or whatever public transit you'd need to get to wherever you were watching, whatever you were looking at. So public transit, it's an
Nice.
awesome thing
That,
when
that
you don't know where you're at.
that's a good idea. I know here our public transportation is less than desirable.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be
It's a little
place.
better there, don't you think?
It's a little bit better here in San Antonio, and it is night and day in Arizona.
Yeah.
Buses run every 15 or 20 minutes, so I mean it's night and day. But even if you're not sure,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time you can't go wrong with straight shots. So even if you don't know where anything is, as long as you can get yourself in a straight line, you can start to figure out where you're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So tell us a little bit about how you've met people where you go and how that has enriched and also increased your travel and your experiences with different things. Maybe if you have a few stories or
Tell everyone and their mother that you just moved to whatever city you're in. 9 times out of 10, people will tell you a cool tidbit, a little piece of culture that you need to pick up on.
mm,
They're more than happy to tell you all kinds of cool stuff about their city, and it's
yeah.
a really easy way to break the ice with just about anybody. Um, Also, look out for people who are doing the same kind of stuff as you. One of the things when I was traveling all the way down to Florida with my friend to help him move, I ended up being there about a month, was look for people who, well, I smoke. I smoked at the time. So anybody that was smoking, especially if they were working at a place you were at, like they were the wait staff or custodians or whatever, or drivers or whatever, they'll be able to point you in the directions of good restaurants, uh, places off the beaten path.
Mm.
Uh, Hold on just a second. You guys, what kind of story do you want to hear?
I don't know, just maybe if you have a good story of a time when you met someone and maybe it opened a door for you, or as far as either getting into a new city, or maybe you found something that you wouldn't have normally found in that city, or experienced something that you wouldn't have normally experienced had you not made connections with someone.
On our way out to Phoenix, we had a little bit of issue in Oklahoma City. We ran out of weed.
Nice. That is an issue.
Knowing that my traveling companion, her brother went to school with some folks down in Lubbock, we decided on a whim to call him up. He lives in San Diego, and have him call some people that we didn't know in Lubbock, Texas, that is. And we arranged for a little get together.
Nice.
And for those geography averse people, Oklahoma City to Lubbock is about a 5-hour detour, and it completely changes the direction of where you're going.
Yeah.
So after we decided that might be an option, we decided to map out the rest of the travel, and it took us through Roswell, New Mexico,
Yeah.
Oh.
Roswell's cool.
home of UFOs, home of conspiracies and all sundry of other things. And it also brought us into Arizona from Tucson as opposed to the north route through Phoenix.
Yeah.
And the only person that we knew in Arizona was my grandpa. And so we decided that the cost outweighed or the benefits outweighed any kind of cost. And we went down there and met some of the coolest people on the planet in Lubbock. They pointed us out to this great diner.
Nice.
Called Tia's. Honestly, I still talk to Joey to this day. If I ever needed anything up in Lubbock, I can always give him a call, and that's not just for marijuana. It's also like, hey, you want to hang out or other things.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest stories I have, as far as meeting somebody new on the way and trying something new.
Yeah.
On a whim.
Very
Did they legalize stuff in Texas yet?
No.
It's not legalized yet? Okay.
Nope. Heck, that's how I ended up with my medical marijuana card. I just randomly met some guy, told him I was from Indiana, and he was like, blah, 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 blah. Turns out he was a medical marijuana doctor, Dr. Nick Martinez. And
That's cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like, who you meet, where you go, determines the vibe and success of your vacation sometimes.
Yeah.
And how willing you are to, like, step out of your comfort zone and maybe be the person to open the conversation. I know when we went to Disney, we went, like, there was this restaurant we stayed at, or we went to almost like every night, and we met, like, the guy that was our waiter at the bar, like, saw him every time, and we just opened up so much to him. Come to find out, like, he was doing this RVing trip. Was it in Europe? Or was it?
He was building a travel trailer.
Yeah, so he was building a travel trailer, and then
Wow.
him and his fiance were going overseas and doing, like, 2 months. Like, they were going to leave, like, the last night we were there on vacation. And they were going to build a travel trailer and go across seas and travel for, like, 2 months and then come back. And I was like, it's so crazy. Like, if you're just willing to open up and talk to people, how, like, close you could be and how many things you might have in common and the connections that you can make. Because he told us of a company where we could get, like, a small travel trailer built, like, really small, for like $5,000.
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's amazing if you are just willing to, like, open yourself up. And then, like, I think, like, the every night we got, like, free things and free drinks, and we got to try oysters and, like, all these things that he was just, like, there because he knew us and we talked to him. He was like, yeah, I'll hook you up. And, like, not that that's what you make friends for, but it's just cool that it's, like, a bonus. And if you really talk to somebody and get to know them, put yourself out there, you're much more likely to have a better enriched trip.
And that was another very underrated facet that I found. I'm not exactly the most reserved person in the world, but I definitely felt like a different kind of Dustin in Indiana. And then, well, once you're out there, especially if you're moving, it helps to do the opposite of what you normally would because, well, you're out here to meet new people, especially actually also if you're on vacation. And that cool stuff that you were experiencing with the oysters and all of those perks from meeting those people, Nicole, it's not necessarily like, hey, here's the free stuff I get. It's just, here's instant friendship. Here's an instant connection.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is extremely rare if you allow yourself to be stuck in the same kind of patterns.
For sure. Yeah, like, I hear what you're saying. Like, I don't go to a restaurant here and necessarily make best friends with the waiter. I mean, sometimes I do because I like to talk a lot. But, you know, like, here, I'm not always feeling as outgoing versus when you're on vacation and you're like, oh, yeah, what are these people like? They're so different from me. They're in a different place. Here, I'm like, okay, she works at the Bob Evans. Like, you know. But, like, there, if you go somewhere else, you might be more likely to open up and find out new things versus, like, where you're from. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, when I moved out to Phoenix, I was amazed with how many different people I met from the Midwest. Same thing with when I moved to Florida. There's all kinds of people, and if you really ask around, you'll meet all kinds of people that are from Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan. There's all kinds of people that are like in the same boat as you. So, because you're all in the same thing, trying to escape snow, trying to escape cold weather, trying to escape mediocrity.
Yeah.
Yep, trying to escape having to shovel. You know, one of the craziest things I have to tell people about Indiana, other than tornado drills, is this weird time in the winter where you have to go start your car up for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then every winter there's just a rash of car thefts. So, like, that's just a thing that you have to deal with in Indiana, other than shoveling. No.
Or you're like me and you just like scrape off a little circle in the front and like hope you make it to your destination on time.
But yeah, I noticed that too when I was out in Phoenix. How long did you live there?
I was there for about a year or so.
You just stay around the Ahwatukee area?
Mainly, I mean, I would go up. I liked Scottsdale. I thought Scottsdale was cool, and the home office for the apartment complex that I worked for was up in Scottsdale. So I would go up there periodically for meetings or whatever, and then I would kind of explore around there. You know, I went to the zoo, went to the Phoenix Zoo, you know, a handful of other things. And, you know, I wasn't there that long, so I didn't have as much time to get ingrained as I would have liked to have. But I met a lot of cool people in the apartment complex that were kind of all in the same boat. There's a lot of people that were from the Midwest, and they were there just to try to, you know, get a new flavor for something new.
Yeah.
I did love Phoenix for that. It was kind of cool because as a big sports fan, I would always tell people my allegiances, and they'd tell me theirs, and that's how you find out somebody's from Chicago, and find out somebody's from Milwaukee, or something like that. And I also lived up on the north side, I guess kind of close to Scottsdale, a little bit close to one of the fanciest, highest per capita income areas in the city, a place called Paradise Valley. And my kind of assumption after being there a few years was that the only thing southwest about this place was the architecture. Yeah. It seems like, at least in the areas where I was at, well, this is the place where all the assholes come from other parts of the country and try to make their lives. And so it was really weird. And then you also have to think about, like, when I was voting there, I had the choice for sheriff to vote against Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
He was there when I was there too.
Or vote against the guy that was, or vote for the guy that was running against him. Joe something. And
I was never an Arpaio fan. I didn't really like that guy very much.
Well, yeah, no, nobody did.
He was ultra aggressive.
But the other guy was fully in favor of these random desert tent cities filled with prisoners because the stuff was overpopulated, and you just keep prisoners outside in the 120-degree weather.
That's what Arpaio did.
They both are I had to vote for one or the other.
Yeah. Because I know when I was there, they had the yard for the jail. They had a bunch of tents set up out there. So if you were like new to the jail, you got stuck in the tent outside. And I remember him saying that he made everybody wear pink. So they had like pink jumpsuits, pink underwear, pink everything. And he said that it keeps everybody from fighting. Who's going to be getting in a fight over some pink underwear?
I mean, like, you're absolutely right. So,
well, that's something I didn't think
it
about.
was just a different kind of place. Very pretty.
I just remember the red light cameras. I wasn't a big fan of that. I remember the random vehicles that were just parked on the side of the interstate that were really shells for traffic enforcement. And it would take your picture. It would take your speed going by one way, and then they would take your picture going by the other way, and they'd just mail you a ticket in the mail. Here's a ticket. I'm like, dang, man, that's kind of, it was just, everything was very aggressive. That's one thing I did not like about it.
No, I mean, I actually got a ticket that I had to go to court to try to fight because my son was being born, and they got me with one of those snapping you right before and snapping you right after. And I mean, yes, it's a very aggressive place. The desert is very aggressive.
I'm just thinking like that's something I didn't even think about is like when you move somewhere new, learning the new laws and like even if the laws are the same, like I know in Indianapolis, I know where you can speed and like kind of where you can't, or like where you
Yeah,
can
you basically couldn't speed there at all
like
because they had all these undercover things that were trying to bust you for speeding. So
yeah.
it was kind of part of the rules. You just had to do your thing.
That's how Canada was. When I was driving in Canada, I was like, there has not been a single cop. This is awesome. And I was flying. And then about 20 miles down the road, my friend's like, have you been seeing those signs that say they have speed zones or radar zones? I was like, no, I haven't paid attention. Come to find out, that's what they do up there. They don't have like cops that really just patrol. They catch you on the camera.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I said, I bet I'm going to get home and get a bunch of tickets. Never did, but yeah, so that's something that's important to think about when you're moving away too, is like get to know the locals so they can help you figure out like what the rules are.
Yeah.
Because everything, I didn't think about that, but that's a good
Well,
point.
I'll tell you what, I didn't want to go anywhere and have a drink. I never wanted to go to like a restaurant, have a drink, and drive home. I was worried to death about getting a DUI.
yep. Yes,
But could they
yep.
like tell on the like?
No, but they were just so aggressive with everything out there, and Ohio was so aggressive with enforcing everything. I was just worried to death that, I didn't have
Yeah.
any family out there. I had that one buddy that I knew when I moved out there, and I was like,
Oh, like if you were to
I was
get
like,
in
if I get in
trouble?
any trouble or
Yeah.
anything, nobody's going to be around to bail me out. I mean,
That's true.
And that's the kind of stuff you learn. Like, you find out like the DPS, the Department of Public Safety, has their own highway cops that just drive up and down the highways,
yeah.
trying to make sure that you're not driving in the high occupancy vehicle lane.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Lord. But
Yeah.
you also get to see kind of really cool things like they have access roads in Arizona where businesses and all kinds of other stuff go along, and it decreases traffic. It's a whole lot easier. Like, I can't imagine going back to Indianapolis and hopping on to 465 at Thompson just
Yeah.
from that side ramp.
Yes.
Like, I can't imagine there not being an entire roadway.
Yeah.
So
full of-
explain to me and our listeners what do you mean by access road that's specifically for a certain type of people, or what does that mean?
So in Arizona and Texas, they have these frontage roads that run right alongside the highways, all of the interstates, and they're 2, 3, 4 lanes wide. Ostensibly, therefore, traffic getting on and off the highway, as well as businesses, because both places realized, hey, you need to have access to these roads. Like, if you've ever lived in Indy, you know the frustration of seeing your business from the side of the highway and realizing that you have to go get off the highway and make some big gigantic turnaround through the streets to get to that place. Whereas these access roads, which are directly off the highway and run the entire length, you can just get off your lane and like your business is right there. Like everything is right off of it. It gives you plenty of time to merge, get off. Unless you're in Phoenix, they have like this weird on the on-ramps off those frontage roads, these green light, red lights.
Yeah.
They meter people in.
They have those in Atlanta too.
Interesting. I do know in Canada they had this really cool thing where like how we have like rest stops here, that's how their gas stations were. So you didn't have to get off really off the interstate. You would just pull off like you're getting into a rest stop, and it'd be a big gas station with like food. They'd have a couple food places, like 2 or 3 restaurants, and then you just merge right back onto the interstate. And they would just have and I thought that was genius. Because you're not having to get off the interstate and turn around, hope that you get back on the interstate the right way. You just pop off to the side, pop back on.
I guess that's kind of like this, except if the road was a whole other, like, also highway.
Yeah. It's not just a little thing.
Like 55, 60. But yeah.
Very cool.
And here in Texas, they have something even more genius than that. Um, they have turnaround lanes. So if you were to miss your exit or the thing that you need to get to is on the opposite side, you can get off and there's a dedicated just turn around in a circle, no stoplights, just hop back on and get going the other way lane that
Hmm.
I wish was duplicated everywhere.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So maybe I need to move so I can learn to drive better. That's funny.
So, so I want to ask, so is there anything that you think that you have missed out on through travel? Like maybe is there anything that you missed out on in Indy that, you kind of miss or, family thing, anything like that?
Definitely family. Missed out on Christmases, on some Thanksgivings. I've only been back home once since I've been gone.
Wow.
I mean, and you can Skype and you can talk, but as everybody who's dealing with this current pandemic knows, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
I've missed out on the Indy 500. Good Lord.
That's what I was hitting at was the 500.
I love the race. I've been to, I can't even tell you how many. I saw Dan Weldon win. I saw Sarah Fisher almost win. I saw Sam Hornish come roaring back from the back of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also been that guy at 6 a.m. just kind of passed out.
And saw no one win.
Right.
And I try to find that wherever I go. I went to the IndyCar races in Phoenix for the few years that I was there, and it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same at all.
Yeah, it's not the Indy 500.
Nope.
So
Nope,
they're cool
nope.
in their own way, but it's definitely not the Indy 500. It's very unique.
Gotcha.
Yes, like anytime that I would go see a race anywhere, I've seen them in Michigan, I've seen them in Kentucky, here in Texas. Like you're hoping that it's kind of the same, and it's never is.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never have. The one thing I haven't missed out on is the Indiana Pacers. That's my.
Yeah, they kind of went downhill, huh?
Yeah, I haven't missed them. I've seen them at least once a year since I've been gone,
That's
wherever. Always wearing my Indiana stuff, always being the loudest guy around. This year, I actually got to meet and hang out with the announce staff, Quinn Buckner and Krista Neri.
That's cool.
Beforehand, and I got to talk to some of the Simons. They look like vampires. That's the owners of the Pacers. They all look like vampires.
That's funny.
But yeah, like, heck, I've met a lot of people from Indiana. Like, I met this girl, Becky. She was from Indiana. They were giving me a props for something out in Phoenix. But yeah, the Indy 500, some family stuff.
Cool.
I'm trying to think. Go ahead.
Do you plan to stay there now? Is that your home in San Antonio, or do you think you want to move somewhere else?
Yeah, where are you going next?
Yeah, do you want to go multiple places, or are you just I want to go one more place, or I'm here? What do you think?
So I love it here in San Antonio. It is everything culturally I thought I was going to get in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Except without the cool tiled architecture. I would love to stay here forever. This definitely kind of feels like home. But my son lives with his mom, her military husband, and they're currently in North Carolina for at least the next 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay. So maybe some family
So you
stuff.
thinking about going there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's a cool area too, though.
I mean, it's something different. It's something new.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like that's probably going to be the next move. Either South Carolina, North Carolina, um, somewhere in that vicinity. And actually, that was supposed to happen in the next few months, but this Corona thing has happened and kind of
Yeah.
thrown
Throwing
for it.
everybody off. Yeah.
Ruined everything.
Yeah. So it'll be a nice new adventure for you.
Hmm.
Do you think you'll want to stay there long term, or you want to move somewhere else after that, or are you just gonna follow him?
Follow them until we find a good mark where. I mean, I honestly I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you that having taken that leap and just lived the epiphany I had where I could go live the same kind of life basically wherever, I can tell you I want to keep going around.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so different to
Yeah.
be new spot. You get to eat at new restaurants. You get to find out different grocery stores. Like, Texas is the first place I've been that didn't have a Kroger. In Arizona, in Las Vegas, in California, they've all got some different flavor of Kroger. Here, it's all about HEB, which is something that's in Mexico and San Antonio and basically all over Texas and nowhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the car? Oh, Buc-ee's. You guys have Buc-ee's down there?
Yes, there's Buc-ee's.
We always hear about Buc-ee's from everybody.
Yeah. I want to go
Everybody's
there.
like, it's just this giant. It's like Flying J except cooler. Really,
Yeah.
don't let them tell you.
They all seem like they love that thing, man.
Well, you have to understand about Texans is that nobody loves anything like Texans love Texas.
Yeah.
The first thing I saw when we stopped at a McDonald's in San Antonio was a 12-foot carved wood map of Texas that had seats around it for kids. And that was at a McDonald's. It's crazy. Like, when I was moving here in the big 16-foot box truck, I was like, yeah, we're finally there. We're in Texas. And we got to El Paso.
Mhm.
And it was another 10-hour drive
Forever.
to get to where we're now.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, I found out that everybody here in Texas measures travel on how long it takes them to get out of Texas.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, Texas is its own little country. They fly their Texas flag more than they fly anything else.
Yeah, I saw that too in Phoenix too. Phoenix was kind of the same way. You'd see a lot of the Phoenix flags, the Arizona flag.
I don't think most people in Indiana even know what the Indiana flag looks like.
I know, that's what I was thinking. You don't ever see anybody supporting the state flag here.
No, you don't.
When I got to Phoenix, I was like, what is this flag that is on the front of everybody's car? And they were like, that's the state flag, dude. Like, I was a freaking idiot. And I'm like, they don't do that in the Midwest.
We have more checkered flags, though.
Right.
No, there's nobody in Indiana that has like those crappy ghetto tattoos representing where they're from and have the Indiana state flag on it.
No,
Right.
there's some nap towns. I've seen a few of those,
like
sadly.
Indiana born and raised, and it's the Indiana state flag, the blue with like, is that a torch on there?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
We light it up.
All right, buddy. Well, we got to wrap this up a little bit. So we do have a couple of extra segments that we did want to run by with you. One of them is the Don't Do That segment. And that's a travel mistake that you have made somewhere along the way that you could share with our listeners so they can avoid that same mistake.
Always have an escape plan.
Love it.
So, in the course of helping my buddy move to Panama City from Indiana,
Panama City Beach.
Panama City Beach, Florida,
Yeah.
he said, hey, come on down and help me out. I will fly you back. And I was like, cool. Go down there. I'm there for a month. Everything's fine. But he doesn't have any money when it comes time for me to leave. And so I, without having any kind of backup or any other options, end up having to take a 30-plus hour Greyhound ride from Panama City Beach to Indianapolis because I didn't have a backup plan.
Holy crap.
Yes. And it's every bit as painful as you think. Um, so yes, always be prepared.
Make sure that you got your own way home, right?
Yeah, make sure I see the plane tickets before I get there.
Right, yeah.
I want somebody to do that one day. Just like take me somewhere random.
Well, you may end up in a situation like that. You might not be able to get home.
Enjoy the ride.
But even then, I still got to see Birmingham, Alabama. I still got to see some other cool places,
Yeah,
at least the city part of them. But
Yeah.
traveling in a Greyhound 30+ hours,
it's a little
It's not-
rough. Yeah,
And
it's rough.
I think that's like a common theme in a lot of our episodes where people say like their tip is like go with the flow because when
Yeah.
you travel, like something's gonna come up no matter what. And so your attitude, demeanor towards it is gonna make or break your
yeah.
vacation.
Either you can get pissed or you can roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, it can suck, hardcore suck, but yeah. How you deal with it.
That's one of the cool things you learn while you're out on the road by yourself is
Yeah.
just all your attitude.
Yeah.
It's all attitude.
For sure.
Okay. Our last segment is today's hidden gem. And today's hidden gem is a off the beaten path place that our listeners could go and check out if they are in whatever area you want to share your gem in.
Okay. So when I was thinking about this, I couldn't get past the two places. I couldn't just pick one.
Okay.
I'm going to give you guys two.
Okay.
One is in Arizona, Havasupai Falls.
Have a soup pie?
Havasupai.
Okay.
Ooh.
Um,
Soup and pie?
it's about a 3 or 4 hour hike from the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And it's just the prettiest, bluest water you've ever seen in your entire life. There's a waterfall. It's a little piece of heaven in an Indian reservation by the Grand Canyon.
Cool.
My second one is actually Clifty Falls State Park near Madison, Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that place.
I went to school around there. You would have no idea if you were from Indiana how many waterfalls and cool vistas you can see
Yeah.
just if you head a couple hours south.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that place is
I like
really
that.
cool. They have a lot of good caves there too. I don't know if they're open anymore.
They're probably definitely not open right now.
I mean, yeah. They had closed them for a while because of the bats. They were
Oh.
saving the bats, I think. I'll have to fact check myself on that, but
Now,
That's
for
where the
those-
corona came from.
Now, for those who feel adventurous, there are backways into the park that don't involve entrances to the park.
ooh.
You can go to Hanover Beach Hills. It's a little tiny road, and it'll take you to practically anything you want to see within a 30-minute hike.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I remember when my niece was first born. Well, like a couple months after she was born, we took her camping. No idea why. I was a child at the time, so don't blame me. And I remember taking her hiking in the caves there. We put her like on a little pack, and I remember like hiking in that thing, and she was so happy, and it was a good time. I like that place a lot.
Yeah.
The waterfalls are beautiful.
We'll be back to normal soon, and we'll be able to do stuff like this soon.
We hope so.
All right.
That's a good one. I like that.
Okay, buddy. Our last thing is if people want to find out more about you, where can they go check you out?
You can catch me on Twitter at Fire Cold Takes. We are currently in the process of recording episode 3 of Corona Takes. It's a podcast you can find.
I was going to say, that's your podcast?
It's a podcast you can find on Spotify and Anchor. And we will soon be launching a new podcast where I try to learn Spanish.
Ooh.
Nice. I
Only
like
through-
that. Only through what?
Only through music, only through reggaeton and some bachata and explore the
Interesting.
culture
That's awesome.
from the whitest guy imaginable. So, yeah, that's where you can catch me.
Okay, we're really going to put you on the spot now. I want you to sign off the show in Spanish.
Oh.
That's-
Claro que
Adios.
sí. Shoot. Okay.
Well, this is going to go well for you. I can feel it.
This should be good.
Uh,
Have you started the show yet?
what?
Have you started the show yet? The Spanish one?
No, I'm actually recording myself as soon as we wrap here.
Okay.
The first thing we're putting up is a video where I try to learn bachata.
Okay.
What's bachata?
And what's bachata?
Yeah.
Music?
It's that dance where your hand is on your hip or your hand is on your stomach and the other hand is up here in the air and they're just around.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
I
dance.
figure, you know what? Anything that we can do from the waist down, as far as white people goes, we have on lock. I've seen river dance. I've seen some other stuff. So it's just incorporating the other stuff. But yeah.
That's awesome. I look forward to hearing that podcast. What
Yeah.
do you have a name for it yet? What's the name?
Yes. Well, it's either going to be called No Me Importo, which means I don't care. It's not important to me in Spanish, or Venga a Rincón Tranquilo, which means come with me to a quiet corner, and we're going to be everything but fucking be quiet.
That's good. I like that.
I vote for number 2.
Right. I think that's a good one.
That is awesome. Well, thanks for sharing
Very
your
good, man.
stories
Yeah.
with us.
Thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Very
Thanks for taking out
enjoyable.
time.
Hey, no problem. I'll let you guys know because that podcast is going to end with a week-long trip to Monterrey, Mexico,
Cool.
where we have to attempt to speak Spanish
Ooh.
as the whitest guy around.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. When you get ready to do something like that, let us know and we'll air a little clip about it on our show.
All right, guys.
For
Cool,
sure.
buddy.
All right.
Thanks,
All right,
Betty.
I appreciate you. Have a great one.
Have a good night, bud. All right, guys, that wraps up our show with Dustin Hickman. Hope you enjoyed it. We were going to have lots more new shows coming up real soon. If you can, leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else you can leave us a review. That helps us grow. And if you have any suggestions or if you know anybody to be good for our show, please reach out to us at nomadictravelerpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll talk to them and see if we can't get them on the show. As always, we want to thank all our new listeners out there for tuning in and checking us out. Be sure to check out Dustin's podcast when they come out. And that's about all we got for today. We'll see you next week.